Hello everyone, in today's session we are going to discuss reading comprehension. This is exercise passage 10. Let's begin. First of all, the index, exercise questions based on passage 10, along with answers and explanations and summary as well. The disclaimer is the images used in our slide deck are for educational purposes only. We respect the intellectual property rights of the original creators and honor of these images. If you are the owner of any of the images used in this deck and have any concerns or issues, please contact us at sathee@iitk.ac.in and we shall remove the images. Let's read the directions. Read the following passage carefully and answer the given questions. Certain words or phrases are given in bold in the passages to help you locate them while answering some of the questions. Questions are to be answered on the basis of the information provided in the passage, and you are not expected to rely on outside knowledge of a particular topic. Your own views or opinions may sometimes conflict with the views expressed or the information provided in the passage. Be sure that you work within the context of the passage. You should not expect to agree with everything you encounter in reading passages. You should analyze the passage carefully before answering the accompanying questions. Look for clues that will help you understand less explicit aspects of the passage. Try to separate main ideas from supporting ideas or evidence. Note transitions from one idea to the next and examine the relationships among the different ideas or parts of the passage. For example, are they contrasting? Are they complementary? Consider the points the author made, the conclusion drawn, and how and why those points are made and conclusion are drawn. Read each question carefully and be certain that you understand exactly what is being asked. Always read all the answer choices before selecting the best answer. The best answer is the one that accurately and completely answers the question being posed. Be careful not to pick an answer choice simply because it is a true statement. Be careful also not to be misled by answer choices that are only partially true or only partially satisfy the problem posed in the question. The methodology of eliminating wrong answers also work here. It simply means that if you are unable to judge the right choice or right answer, cross the answers that are incorrect. In this way, if there remains one answer to be crossed, that will be the correct answer. I hope you understood the directions. Let's begin with questions. Question number 1. And the passage is, in modern time, Abraham Lincoln stands as the model of a compassionate statesman. Here, compassionate means one who has compassion, and a statesman means a politician. He showed this quality not only in striving for the emancipation of the American blacks, but in the dignity with which he conducted the American Civil War. Here, striving means to try hard, and emancipation means to release, to set someone be free. Lincoln did not fancy himself as a liberator. Here, fancy means to like or to want something. He thought it would be better for all if emancipation was a gradual process spread over many years. He proposed compensation for slave owners in US bonds and grants for the rehabilitation of blacks. Colonization, as they called it, but fate was to deem otherwise. The haste with which the South wanted to break away from the Union with the North compelled him to move faster than he expected. Perhaps more than most men of his time, he had thought through the issue of slavery. We must free the slaves, he said, or be ourselves subdued. Before reading his first draft of the Proclamation of Emancipation, he told his colleagues, in giving freedoms to the slaves, we assure freedom to the free. On September 22, 1862, Lincoln set his hand on the Proclamation of Emancipation, declaring that on the first day of January 1863, all persons held as slaves within any state shall then, and forever free. Lincoln's revolution for slavery left him without any moral indignation or passion against the slave owners. The guilt of the slave owners, he felt, should be shared by the whole country, the North and the South, for it seemed to him that everyone in the nation was an accomplice in perpetuating the system. To have whipped up any hatred against slave owners would, to him, have been an act of malice. I shall do nothing in malice, He wrote, "What I deal with is too vast for malicious dealing." As the Civil War was coming to a successful conclusion, a Northerner demanded of Lincoln, "Mr. President, how are you going to treat the Southerns when the war is over?" Lincoln replied, "As if they never went to war." When the news came of the victory of the Northern against the Confederate forces, someone suggested that the head of the Confederation administration, Jefferson Davis, really ought to be hanged. "Judge not, that ye be not judged," Lincoln replied. As to the demand for the prosecution of rebels, here ye means you. Lincoln replied, "We must extinguish our resentments if we expect harmony and union." This was his last recorded utterance. I hope you have understood the passage. Let's move to the questions. Question 1 is, according to Lincoln, the culprits of the system of slavery were. Options are given below. Option 1 is the slaver owners alone. The second one is the slaves alone. The third one is both the slaves and the slave owners. The fourth one is all the people in the country. And the fifth one is none of the above. You have 10 seconds to choose one of these, and your time starts now. I hope you have chosen the right one. Let's move to the correct answer. The correct answer is for all the people in the country. And the explanation is, in this passage, Lincoln expresses the view that the guilt associated with the system of slavery should be shared by the entire nation, both North and South. He believed that everyone was complicit in perpetuating the institution of slavery, not just the slave owners. This perspective is reflected in his assertion that to incite hatred against slave owners would be an act of malice, suggesting that he viewed the issue as a collective moral failing of society rather than the fault of individuals alone. Therefore, the passage indicates that Lincoln held the belief that all people in the country bore some responsibility for the existence of slavery. Here, bore means to tolerate. I hope you have understood the explanation. Let's move to the next question. The next question is, which of the following statements is true in the context of the passage? Options are, Lincoln hated the demand of hanging Jefferson Davis. Lincoln turned down the demand of prosecution of rebels. Lincoln wondered how mere compassion could lead to harmony. The Civil War was fought by the Northerners and Southerners against the enemies. And fifth one is none of the above. You have to choose one of these, and you have 10 seconds. Your time starts now. I hope you've chosen the right one. Let's move to the correct answer. The correct answer is 2. Lincoln turned down the demand of the prosecution of rebels. And the explanation is, in the passage, Lincoln is quoted in response to a suggestion that Jefferson Davis should be hanged, saying, "Judge not, that ye be not judged." He also emphasizes the need to extinguish our resentments if we expect harmony and union. This indicates that he rejected the idea of punishing the rebels harshly, showing his preference for reconciliation over retribution. The other statements either misrepresent Lincoln's views or do not accurately reflect the content of the passage. Therefore, option 2 accurately captures Lincoln's stance on the prosecution of rebels, making it the true statement in the context of the passage. I hope you have understood the explanation. Let's move to the next question. The next question is, the incidents in the passage prove that Lincoln was. Options are, not a firm administrator, afraid of the majority of slaves, unduly concerned for the safety of the rebels, sympathetic and kind-hearted statesman, unreasonably in favor of slaves? I hope you've understood the options and you have 10 seconds to choose one of these. Your time starts now. I hope you've chosen the right one. Let's move to the correct answer. The correct answer is 4. Sympathetic and kind-hearted statesman. And the explanation is the passage illustrates Lincoln's compassion through his approach to emancipation and his conduct during the Civil War. He emphasized unity and reconciliation rather than vengeance, stating, "We must extinguish our resentments if we expect harmony and union." His reluctance, his reluctance means unwilling, to harbor malice towards slave owners and his belief that the guilt of slavery should be shared by the entire nation demonstrated his empathetic perspective. Lincoln's willingness to consider gradual emancipation and compensation for slave owners, alongside his moral stance that giving freedom to the enslaved also ensures freedom for everyone, underscores his kindness and understanding. Thus, the incidents in the passage collectively portray Lincoln as a sympathetic and kind hearted statesman, committed to justice and harmony. I hope you understood the explanation. Let's move to the next question. The next question is the term colonization as used in the passage means. Options are making separate dwelling arrangements for slave owners, rehabilitation arrangements made for slave owners, efforts made by American blacks to free themselves, handing over slaves to the slave owners, and none of the above. I hope you've understood the options. You have to choose one of the options and you have 10 seconds. Your time starts now. I hope you've chosen the right one. Let's move to the correct answer. The correct answer is 5, none of the above. And the explanation is in the passage, the term colonization refers to Lincoln's idea of providing a means for freed slaves to relocate and establish new lives outside the United States, which was a concept discussed during his time as a potential solution for addressing the issue of slavery and integration of freed individuals into society. This approach was not about separate dwelling arrangement for slave owners or rehabilitation of slave owners, but rather about creating opportunities for African Americans to build their lives independently. Often in other countries, the options provided do not accurately capture this meaning of colonization as discussed in the context of Lincoln's proposals. Therefore, none of the above is the appropriate choice. I hope you understood. Let's move to the next question. The next question is the author of the passage seems to be. Options are a staunch and biased critic of Abraham Lincoln, an advocate of the system of slavery, an opponent of the system of slavery, indifferent to Lincoln's remarkable achievement, impressed with Lincoln's good qualities. I hope you've understood the options and you have to choose one of the options. You have 10 seconds and your time starts now. I hope you've chosen the right one. Let's move to the correct answer. The correct answer is 5, impressed with Lincoln's good qualities. And the explanation is the passage presents a positive view of Abraham Lincoln, highlighting his compassion, moral integrity, and thoughtful approach to the issues of slavery and the Civil War. The author emphasizes Lincoln's desire for unity and reconciliation rather than vengeance, showcasing his dignity in leadership and his commitment to the emancipation of slaves. Phrases like Lincoln stand as the model of a compassionate statesman, and his emphasis on healing the nation reflect admiration for his qualities and actions. The author does not express criticism or indifference. Instead, the tone suggests a deep respect for Lincoln's character and the way he navigated the complexities of his time. This admiration indicates that the author is indeed impressed with Lincoln's good qualities. I hope you've understood. Let's move to the next question. The next question is, which of the following makes Abraham Lincoln a compassionate statesman? Options are his hesitation in striving for emancipation of American blacks, his indifference in conducting the American Civil War, his efforts to force the American blacks from slavery, his efforts to conclude the American Civil War without dignity, and the fifth one is none of the above. I hope you've understood the options and you have to choose one of the options. You have 10 seconds for this and your time starts now. I hope you've chosen the right one. Let's move to the correct answer. The correct answer is 5, none of the above. And the explanation is, in the passage, Abraham Lincoln is depicted as a compassionate statesman, primarily due to his thoughtful and humane approach to the issues of slavery and the Civil War. His compassion is illustrated through his desire for gradual emancipation, his reluctance to harbor malice toward slave owners, and his commitment to unity and reconciliation. After the war, he sought to avoid hatred and promote harmony, indicating a deep understanding of the complexities involved and a moral stance that prioritizes compassion over retribution. The other options either mischaracterize Lincoln's actions or suggest negative traits that do not align with the passage's portrayal of him as a leader guided by empathy and dignity. I hope you've understood the explanation. Let's move to the next question. The next question is, what came in Lincoln's way of carrying out emancipation as a gradual process? Options are the haste of the South to break away from the Union with the North. The second one is the inadequate compensation given to the slave owners, his own over enthusiasm to complete the process fast, his proposition to give grant for the rehabilitation of slaves, and the fifth one is none of the above. I hope you've understood the options and you have to choose one of the options. You have 10 seconds for this and your time starts now. I hope you've chosen the right one. Let's move to the correct answer. The correct answer is 1. The haste of the South to break away from the Union with the North. And the explanation is, in the passage, it is noted that the urgency with which the South sought to secede from the Union forced Lincoln to accelerate his plans for emancipation. He initially envisioned a gradual process of emancipation, complete with compensation for slave owners and support the rehabilitation of freed individuals. However, the imminent threat of disunion and the Civil War's escalation compelled him to act more swiftly than he had anticipated. This external pressure disrupted his preferred method of implementing emancipation, demonstrating how the political and social climate influenced his decisions. I hope you've understood the explanation. Let's move to the next question. The next question is the sentence, in giving freedom to the slaves, we assure freedom to the free. Last sentence of para 2 means. Options are, by freeing slaves, we are honoring the concept of freedom. By freeing slaves, we are safeguarding our own interest. The third one is, if we give freedom to the slaves, they will serve us better. And the fourth one is, if we do not give freedom to the slaves, they will free themselves. And the fifth one is none of the above. I hope you have understood the options. You have to choose one of the options and you have 10 seconds for it. Your time starts now. I hope you've chosen the right one. Let's move to the correct answer. The correct answer is 1. By freeing slaves, we are honoring the concept of freedom. And the explanation is in the passage, Lincoln emphasizes the moral imperative of freeing the slaves as a way to ensure freedom for all. He sees the act of emancipation not just as a political necessity, but as a fundamental principle that aligns with the values of freedom and justice. His statement, in giving freedom to the slaves, we assure freedom to the free, reflects the idea that the true freedom cannot be fully realized while slavery exists. By liberating the enslaved, he believes they affirm the very essence of freedom itself, thereby honoring the concept that underpins the nation's ideals. This aligns with Lincoln's broader vision of unity and compassion, as he seeks to reconcile a nation divided by the institution of slavery. He approaches the issue not with malice but with a sense of morality, indicating that the liberation of slaves is integral to the freedom of the entire nation. I hope you've understood the explanation. Let's move to the next question. The next question is Lincoln did not have any hatred for the slave owners because options are given below. Option 1 is they were in a vast majority. Option 2 is they all belonged to upper caste. Option 3 is they would have treated him with malice. Option 4 is they were not guilty at all. Option 5 is none of the above. You have to choose one of the options and you have 10 seconds. Your time starts now. I hope you've chosen the right one. Let's move to the correct answer. The correct answer is 5, none of the above. And the explanation is in the passage, Lincoln's lack of hatred for slave owners is explained by his belief that the guilt associated with slavery was a collective issue that involved the entire nation, both North and South. He felt that harboring hatred against slave owners would be an act of malice, indicating his moral stance against fostering animosity. None of the provided options accurately reflect Lincoln's reasoning. He did not refrain from hatred because of majority status, caste, or a belief that slave owners were innocent. Rather, it was his broader perspective on the shared responsibility for slavery that shaped his compassionate approach. Therefore, none of the above is a correct choice. I hope you understood the explanation. The next question is Lincoln's reply to the Northerners' questions regarding the treatment to Southerners proves that options are the Southerners were wicked in their dealings. Lincoln did not have revengeful attitude towards the Southerners. The Northerners were in favor of Southerners. Lincoln did not like the Southerners' act of breaking away from the Union with the North. Lincoln could control his anguish against the Southerners while expressing himself. I hope you've understood the options. And you have to choose one of the options. You have 10 seconds for this, and your time starts now. I hope you've chosen the right one. Let's move to the correct answer. The correct answer is 2. Lincoln did not have a revengeful attitude towards the Southerners. And the explanation is in the passage when a Northerner asks Lincoln how he will treat the Southerners after the war, Lincoln replies as if they never went to war. This response clearly indicates his desire for reconciliation and healing rather than seeking revenge or harboring animosity against those who fought for the Confederacy. His approach reflects a commitment to unity and compassion, showing that he preferred to move forward without holding grudges. The other options either misinterpret Lincoln's attitude or suggest a negative view of the Southerners, which the passage does not support. Thus, option 2 accurately captures Lincoln's stance. I hope you have understood the explanation. So, this is all about this session. Thank you.